Welcome to the show. I'm Antisocial. And this is the Antisocial Network.
I want to talk to her, but my face is up against the wall. Yeah, I think she wants to talk to me, but I'm antisociable. Yeah.
This week, we're discussing the fact that disabled people are punished in America for getting married. It's known as marriage penalties, and it's a load of BS. Thanks for listening. I'm embarrassed to say I knew so little about disability in America before COVID-19. So many creators have opened my eyes to the inequalities disabled people face in America all the time, let alone the indignities they've suffered due to the pandemic, that I felt this episode needed to be written. From stay-at-home orders that were seamlessly implemented overnight, despite the disabled community asking for work-from-home options for years, to disability income being compared to suggested stimulus check amounts and being ignored, to the decrees that disabled people and people on ventilators were not worth saving from COVID, many issues that affect disabled people have come to light during the quarantine. I thought to myself, if I knew so little about disability in America, then I'm sure I'm not alone. When I saw someone mention on social media that disabled people can lose their benefits if they get married, I was stunned and thought at first that I had misunderstood. But the creator was casual about it, explaining that yes, disabled people's benefits can be reduced or taken away entirely if they get married. My initial reaction to learning this information was horror, and I thought if only more people knew about this injustice that it would be remedied. But the more creators I followed, the more I learned that disabled people have been telling us this information the whole time and doing the work of advocating for equality and to be treated fairly. The rest of us just need to catch up. Believe it or not, this act of cutting or reducing a disabled person's benefits is actually known as a marriage penalty. According to Forbes, the term marriage penalties refers to a bundle of Social Security rules that trigger reductions or complete loss of benefits for otherwise eligible disabled people when they marry. In some cases, it can result in a lower monthly check. In other cases, it can trigger loss of benefits entirely. You may be asking, how is this legal? How is this justifiable? Disability advocates and activists have pointed to the fact that most Americans are familiar with the concept of marriage equality, but only in terms of gay rights. In fact, when gay marriage was legalized nationwide in the United States in June of 2015, it drew attention to the issue of marriage inequality for disabled people who have been fighting for this right just as long. In a 2020 article titled A Simple Fix for One of Disabled People's Most Persistent, Pointless Injustices, Andrew Pulrang writes regarding the struggle to legalize gay marriage, there is a somewhat similar movement still going on, though comparatively less known. It's the effort to change long-standing Social Security rules that penalize disabled people who marry. Unlike the fight to legalize gay marriage, disabled people are not legally prevented from getting married. However, if you are disabled and rely on government assistance like Social Security, Medicaid, or Medicare, your benefits could be severely reduced or stopped entirely if you do get married. For many who need those benefits to survive, that sacrifice is significant and not something that can easily be abandoned for the sake of wedded bliss. This is why they are referred to as marriage penalties, because while disabled people are not prevented from getting married, they do pay a price for that decision. While some disabled people might not suffer financially from the loss of income due to their Social Security benefits being cut if they marry, often losing these benefits can trigger a loss of health care too, as Social Security can be a determining factor in eligibility for Medicare and Medicaid. For disabled people, losing access to health care can be much more detrimental than the lost income. In addition, Pulrang explains Medicare and Medicaid typically cover far more healthcare and support services than any private healthcare plan. And crucially, Medicaid is virtually the only health insurance that pays for long-term home care, which disabled people may rely on for assistance with everyday care tasks, like getting out of bed, bathing, dressing, and eating. For those of you who are still asking how this is legal or justified, Let me try to explain. There's a flimsy explanation for these marriage penalties. First of all, there is an assumption that by marrying, the spouse's income can now supplement the disabled person's, instead of the government doing it, and that they will begin to take on all of the responsibility of caring for them, both physically and financially. Not only does this rely on the false notion that two people can maintain the same lifestyle on a shared income, but it presumes that a disabled person's spouse has one of two things: either excellent health care that will cover all of their spouse's needs, or the ability to take on and perform all of these tasks themselves. In the instance of a person who currently requires an at-home nurse or consistent physical therapy or dialysis or any other condition that may require frequent attentive and preventive care, that's a lot for the government to ask of a romantic partner, who again is also taking on all of the financial responsibility of caring for their disabled partner. Bullring says the idea that by marrying, a disabled person transfers in some way the responsibility for their care from the government to a spouse is grossly outdated in terms of both gender roles and a modern understanding of disability. Marriage penalties are obsolete and discriminatory and are based on the antiquated notion that marriage is a system in which one spouse supports another and not a partnership of two independent people as we mostly view it today. In effect, marriage penalties can trap disabled people in a marriage where they are literally legally dependent on their spouse, limiting any paths towards independence that most modern married couples enjoy today. Disabled people already exist in a state of forced poverty simply because in order to receive many of the benefits they have access to, they cannot earn more than a certain amount, which is capped pretty low. With some exceptions, this is often no more than $1,300 a month. So in addition to being financially dependent on whoever a disabled person might be receiving their benefits through, say a spouse or a parent, they are effectually prevented from gainful employment. While it's true that many disabled people do work and have access to work search counselors and on-the-job assistance through disability benefits, they still cannot exceed that monthly income cap before their benefits are cut. As I outlined previously, with the extent in which some people's healthcare needs can exhaust funds and resources, it is impractical for the government to think that a family with these additional financial responsibilities associated with disability could go without them just because a spouse makes $50K a year or something. Another horrible unintended consequence of denying disabled people benefits because a person's income is supposedly too high is that people who have become disabled later in life have had to make the difficult decision to divorce their partner just to qualify for Medicaid. This is despicable. Also, because disability benefits are so low, some people who would likely qualify for disability choose not to apply because they know they wouldn't be able to survive on disability payments. I know a couple who both could likely qualify for disability, one due to a defect they've had since birth and the other because of a severe back injury. But since they could not sustain their current standard of living and support their child on the lost income, they tough it out and endure working through chronic pain that could re-injure or worsen their conditions. It is also in this way that disability keeps people in poverty. If you want that money, you're going to have to prove you really need it by being poor as fuck. Again, this might be a logical connection if it weren't for the way healthcare benefits are tied to Social Security for disabled people. The government will argue that the couple I referred to aren't really disabled if they can make the choice to work instead of taking the measly scraps disability benefits provide. In the eyes of the law, a truly disabled person wouldn't have the ability to tough it out and work merely because benefits don't provide enough, but this ignores the many ways in which disability can take shape. But of course, the government only deems a body disabled if a person is not physically capable of work. Being a cog in the capitalist machine is what determines worthiness. Let's take a quick break. Are you tired of at-home tattoo treatments that leave your spouse disappointed and your skin infected? Do you want the professional look of your local tattoo artist, but their shop is out of range of your ankle monitor? If you've got that itch to get some new ink but can't afford the high prices of qualified artists every paycheck, then you need Madison Bleed. Started by a mom and named after her daughter's horrible tattoo, you too can use Madison Bleed to fix your fuck-ups at home. Not just for cover-ups, Madison Bleed is perfect for the novice tattooist and comes with a tracing guide for sparrows, semicolons, and foreign language symbols. Start designing your quality at-home tattoos today with Madison Bleed. difference between you and Cardi B is? Do you wonder why you haven't achieved the fame of a Kardashian and agonize over why you don't get the respect you deserve? Most influencers don't realize they are missing a key ingredient when it comes to success: fancy bags. Here at Fancy Bags, you don't need money in your actual purse because you've spent all your money on the bag itself. Who needs money when your shoulder sack can say everything for you? Don't be held back by lesser, inferior bags and start your new life today with Fancy Bags. Bags start at just $16,000 and can be financed for as low as $4.99 a month. Call now! And we're back. Marriage penalties do not affect all disabled people in the same ways. I already explained how losing disability benefits could also lead to a loss of health care, but who your benefits are drawn from can also determine your eligibility. It's all very convoluted and punitive, and I would be lying if I said I understood every facet of this, but what I learned is that there are differing factors that could affect your benefits. For instance, some people are on Social Security Insurance, or SSI, and some people are on Social Security Disability Insurance, known as SSDI, or they can be on both. It is possible to have benefits that draw from your own work history or that are tied to a spouse or parent. If, for instance, you are widowed and your SSDI benefits are attached to your ex-partner's work record, or if your SSDI benefits are tied to a parent's work history, you can lose them if you get married. However, if your SSDI benefits are tied to your own work record, you don't risk losing them when you marry. Or, if two people who are marrying are both on SSDI, in some cases, they can both keep receiving benefits. Many have said that navigating these systems is deliberately confusing, particularly for a demographic that already may lack access to education and resources to help them with the process. People who can afford it will often seek the assistance of an attorney in order to ensure they're getting every benefit they are entitled to. Pullring argues that the intent is for the government to save money by tricking people into actions that will lose them their benefits, and most often disabled people who lose their benefits do so not because they are ineligible, but because they did not understand their rights or options. For instance, not being informed of the fact that their benefits might be cut if they got married, meaning people who might have made a different choice are now finding themselves screwed. A quick search on Reddit showed me an alarming number of posts with titles like, "Oh no, I got married and now I've lost all my benefits." The thing is, a lot of disabled people have caught on to this and will choose not to marry because of it. That's the secret tip Pullrang refers to in his article titled, "A Simple Fix for One of Disabled People's Most Persistent, Pointless Injustices." Just don't get married. That's the simple fix. Disabled people know that they can keep their benefits by simply opting out. However, by so many disabled people choosing not to get married, the government is missing out on any supposed savings they would incur through marriage penalties anyway. Pullring points out that because of this, the government could actually do away with all marriage penalties and make determinations based solely on income and disability, regardless of marital status. And in addition, as Dominic Evans, a disabled activist who writes about marriage equality for the disabled, explains in his blog, Social Security can make the determination that a couple is living as if they are married and cut services like SSI and SSDI, whether there is a legal marriage or not. It can be incredibly dangerous for couples to live together when at least one person has a disability and that person receives benefits for this very reason. If so many disabled people are opting out of marriage in order to maintain their benefits anyway, and the government is going to efforts to cut benefits of couples they deem are living as a married couple regardless of legal status, the system clearly is not working. The simplest solution would be for the government to just eliminate this discriminatory practice and judge each person's eligibility on a case-by-case basis. How do we know these restrictions were put in place to be discriminatory and not to safeguard against abuse of the system? Well, for one, disability can be extremely difficult to get, and the cap for disability benefits is already notoriously low, so the threat of people abusing the system is not a measurable concern. Dominic Evans explains in his blog that the truth is, these laws are rooted in eugenics and centuries-old beliefs and systems meant to prevent disabled people from not only marrying, but having children. While it has been argued that laws preventing disabled people from marrying exist to protect people with developmental disabilities or the inability to advocate for themselves, they have far more frequently been used to discriminate against and control people who society deems undesirable. There is so much about disability that needs to be reassessed and overhauled in America, and marriage equality for the disabled is integral to that progress. Accessible healthcare for all is an obvious component that cannot be separated from the complexity of this. If free and affordable healthcare, including at-home assistance for the disabled as well as other crucial services provided through Medicaid, were readily available for all Americans, then the danger of marriage penalties for disabled people would be greatly reduced, as it would not threaten their access to healthcare. But, barring universal free healthcare, which is an entire podcast episode for another time, the current state of marriage penalties for disabled people are unnecessarily punitive, outdated, and need to be abolished. It is important that we elevate these stories, share this information, and post about it as often as we can, as there is not enough awareness from allies who could be useful in this fight. There can be no marriage equality for all until there is marriage equality for the disabled. That's my show for this week. I'm Antisocial, and this is the Antisocial Network. If you want even more access to me, Antisocial, follow me on Instagram at the Antisocial Network. To support my content creation dreams and to receive 2 bonus episodes a month, subscribe to my Patreon for only $5 at patreon.com/theantisocialnetwork. And for a limited time, new patrons will receive Antisocial Network stickers and a top-secret handmade zine made by me, Antisocial. To send me voice memos or to submit your own funny fake ad that I might use in my podcast, download the Anchor app and find my show there. As always, new episodes are available in the free feed every week. See you next Wednesday. Later.
But I'm antisociable, yeah.